Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about mistakes that I have made early in my oil and gas career. Before we get to the content, please be sure to like this video. Subscribe so you can get more content in oil and gas and professional development topics. And please be sure to comment on the video below so I can incorporate your feedback into future videos. Please be sure to hit that notification bell when you do subscribe, because I'm going to stick to a schedule and upload between 10 a.m. EST to 3 p.m. EST randomly. Well, let's get to the content. The motivation behind creating this video is history tends to repeat itself. I don't want you to make the same mistakes as I did when I started out in the oil and gas industry. And who knows, you may make your own unique mistakes that I didn't get to make those mistakes in the oil and gas industry. So this is strictly from my experience, and if you have my personality, then you might step into these common pitfalls. So with that being said, let's get to it. First mistake that I'd like to talk about when I started out in the oil and gas industry is that I had the perception that a career path is linear. When I graduated with my bachelor's degree in petroleum engineering from the University of Texas back in 2015, I thought being a CEO of Exxon or Chevron was going to be a linear path. And by no means have I reached that level, but what I'm saying is I learned over time that after my multiple layoffs that a career path is not always going to be linear. Sometimes it goes into a loop-de-loop or a piecewise function or a stepwise function, or include any other mathematical function that you can think of. But with that being said, I do believe that a career path is what you make of it, and it is what it is. It is meant to be what is meant to be. And don't be discouraged whenever you ever face a setback in your career, because I can tell that we were all taught to be really down on ourselves, be really hard on ourselves whenever there are setbacks. And sometimes a lot of those setbacks are beyond your control. And a lot of the times, a lot of the things that happen to us in the industry are beyond our control. The promotion, yes, you work your tail off to get the promotion, but your boss has to pick you, or somebody above your pay grade has to pick you. In terms of selecting a job, the hiring manager has to pick you. There's a lot of beauties in the eye of the beholder when it comes to the career path, and it's not always by yourself. So I strongly suggest you don't be so hard on yourself in thinking that the career path has to be linear. The second mistake I made in starting out in the oil and gas industry is how much I did not value relationships. The oil and gas industry, as with many other industries, is a relationship-based business. It really does depend on how well of a relationship you have with somebody, along with the merit that you have, that will determine the outcome of your situation. Now, what I'm saying is, developing relationships with other people is a life skill to have. So I strongly suggest that you focus on those relationships. Not everything is transactional. And in fact, a lot of people might take it offensively if you do everything transactionally. If you ask something from somebody, make sure you understand that there's a human element. Talk about their day. Talk about how their family is. Talk about their children if they have children. So if I were you, add the human element to your relationships and don't make them very transactional. In fact, understand that there are humans working in the oil and gas industry, and sometimes there's some inhumane things that do happen, like layoffs, and people don't reach out to you whenever layoffs do happen. I've faced that 3 times already. So if I were you, add the human element to your relationships. It makes a difference, and people will want to do something for you rather than having to do something for you. Third mistake I made in working in the oil and gas industry has been how much I was suffering in silence. There were many instances that I wish I spoke up. Speaking up as in, if a system wasn't meant to be conducive to your work, speak up and talk about it to your manager, and talk about how to make things more conducive in making the numbers really right. I'll give an example. I was in charge of an inventory project in one of my companies that I worked for, and the spreadsheets, the systems that we had, was a lot of things were prone to error. So a lot of the mathematical calculations that I made, I thought they were perfect. When in reality, the smell test that my bosses had made at the time realized that I was not perfect. And in fact, there were a lot of mistakes that I was making. In fact, he was thinking that a lot of the things that I was doing was relatively rough and I was being careless and I was not looking at things very closely, when in reality, the system that was set up was making me prone to a lot of those errors. I wish I spoke up in covering myself and saying that it was not completely my fault, but instead I took the entire blame for it. Let this be an example for you to understand what your voice is. You don't have to suffer in silence. Just because the system is hard doesn't necessarily mean that the system has to be that way. Make sure you have some clear communication with your boss in order for you to understand what are those expectations and what are the smell tests that need to come out of that situation during your inventory projects or any project that you may have. The last mistake I can think of, and again, I made many mistakes early in my career. I'm just highlighting the ones that I think that are common pitfalls, and I continue to make this mistake because it really just depends on how much cognitive empathy I have on a certain day and how much energy levels I have, is assigning bad intent. Not everyone is out to get you. The world doesn't revolve around you. It's not always about you. Do not take it personally. I used to assign bad intent whenever something didn't go my way early on in my career. And that also tag teamed with me not valuing relationships as much and making them as transactional as possible. So, with that being said, I really hope you do not assign bad intent whenever whenever something doesn't go your way, or if somebody is not delivering up to par in their performance or anything like that. I do encourage a curiosity mindset and ask some questions as to why things aren't the way they are in terms of performance. And I really hope, and I really wish that my bosses did that for me when I started out in my career, because I always felt like bad intent was assigned to me, that because I was volunteering so much for professional societies, is that I wasn't able to do so well on my inventory project or things like that. There were a lot of assumptions that were made about me, and I really hope that not a lot of those assumptions, you're going to make those assumptions about other people. Have that curiosity mindset, because that bad intent that gets assigned to you can be very toxic. And do not let anyone's toxicity or any outcome of toxicity influence your positivity or influence your mindset. And I really wish I knew that early in my career. Well, folks, that's everything that I wanted to talk about. As usual, please be sure to like this video, subscribe so you can get more content in oil and gas and professional development topics. And please be sure to comment on the video below so I can incorporate your feedback into future videos. This is Yogesh Pradhan. I go by Yoshi Pradhan. I run Iron Lady Energy Advisors, and I'm signing off.